Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Rashmi and Jeremy McDonald's show 2013 and Beyond. We've started this in December of 2012, and it's been doing really well on YouTube, and we're going to add it to another format. So we're just growing. And how are you doing, Rashmi?
Hi, Jeremy. How's it in Florida? Must be sunny out here in London. We've been having flurries of snow again.
Oh, wow. Wow, it actually is very nice here. I was walking the dogs earlier, and it's sunny outside and beautiful. But I'm hearing from people that live in other parts of the country, in Kentucky, that was down below zero. So
right.
they're getting the winter.
As you know, I'm off to India tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get a top up of sunshine. So I'll be in India doing some morphogenic work for the planet from Asia and India, and also celebrating my mother's 81st birthday while she continues to touch wood, sing and dance and, entertain lots of people all over India.
That's so incredible. Very incredible.
At that age. Yep. So did you feel the energies yesterday?
Yeah. Did you feel, I don't know how you felt it, but I felt like waves going through me. And it was incredible. It's almost like the energy is just I know it is. It's going through and just cleansing us, and it's very peaceful. It's just a very good place to be at. So.
Yep, and it's it's like we get these bursts of energy, and then today I feel like I need to slow down a bit and rest because yesterday felt very alive and bubbly and a lot of joy and play energy actually, and creative energy as well. So we did some wonderful initiations and work with my student and colleague Rosie. So we were bringing energy down for the planet and for London and Europe and the world. Because as you know, we're going through massive change now. This show is from fear to love, and that's what's happening, isn't it?
Absolutely. And have you noticed the crazy things going on in it? I know that people are having a little bit of trouble because if they haven't done their inner work, they're looking at that and it scares them. But if they've done their inner work, they know that that's on the outside illusion outside of them, and they're seeing it, and they're just giving tons of compassion towards it to help people navigate through it. And we even had here in Tampa yesterday, the water is contaminated, so we're on a boil water notice. And so there's a lot of people that are scared here in the area that they're going to get sick, and just interesting times.
Well, there's so much information now on the Internet from all the spiritual teachers and all the people that are waking up in waves very quickly now on the planet. But I do feel very much that all of us are part of this wonderful web of love, light, and information. But as we both do, Jeremy, it's so important to just remind our listeners right now and ourselves that it's so important to balance that being with the Internet, being on Facebook, watching videos and teachers speak and different takes on ascension and what's happening, balancing that with the inner time, the time to just be quiet, to be still, to go within, to feel our feelings, and to just breathe, Breathing is just so important now as we navigate these tidal waves of change.
Yeah, and I want to add out there, too, is that some of you out there are hearing what we're saying, and we're saying, be still. And you're saying, well, that's hard to do, but it's a practice. It's not something that happens overnight. I mean, I've been meditating since 1997, so that's 15 years. And I've actually learned to do what's called I call it a walking meditation. I'm sure there's a better name for it, but, like today I'm going to be really doing a lot of things, but I've learned how to not let the outside world get me, have me react. So I'm literally practicing all day long while I'm walking, staying calm inside and using the outside world, the mirrors, so to speak, to keep me calm. And it's really just a great place to be at. And so just to throw that out there.
That's just so important now, I think, for every one of us to, increase this energy of meditation, Jeremy, as you've just shared, because this energy, as is also mentioned in my book, The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart. It's not just, as Jeremy said, when we sit quietly cross-legged in meditation or in a yoga class or whatever our practice is, but it has to be every moment of every day, including becoming the detached witness of the movies and dramas of our life in our sleep states as well. And that's something we slowly begin to master. And the energies now on the planet are so strong that just even a little bit of intention, sincerity, and effort in that direction, and the results are absolutely amazing. Because what's crucial now is also that the Eastern mysticism comes and marries with the New Age movement, or call it what you like, in the West, of all these teachers out there talking and talking. You see, ultimately all this talking, and we're doing it on this radio show, but I'd just like our listeners to know that I am bringing in this energy through the Ascended Masters, even in this show, of peace, of calm, of stillness, of detached witnessing, of acceptance. And so it's not just words. And so, in the East we kind of understand this in our bones and our blood, that it's from the inside out and not the outside in, our world, our reality. And this is becoming more prevalent now in the current teachings in the Western Hemisphere, but it's still a little bit mental. It's still a little bit complicated. We don't even need science to prove things anymore, though of course we know, as Jeremy's just interviewed Amit Goswami, that quantum physics has proven that we are multidimensional, that a particle can exist in several places at the same time, that ultimately we are void energy, that we are black hole energy, that we come from nothingness. And we have to really understand that nothingness, which is very scary for the ego, the mind, the personality self, this mesmerizing feeling that we have with our outer reality. But that is absolutely crucial. And otherwise, no matter how many shows we listen to and how many Reiki certificates and other energy modality certificates we have, we're not going to reach that space. I don't know how you feel about this, Jeremy, as an American.
Well, it's funny you say that, because it's exactly what Dr. Goswami and I were talking about last week, and you and I have talked about on many occasions. If you don't practice, if it's not a constant practice, then you're not going to achieve it. Now, let's go a step further than that, because I know in American culture, especially, and I'm not familiar with the other ones, but in American culture, we automatically go into, but I don't have time to practice, because we're so ingrained and addicted to our stimulus that's happening to us. We're addicted to our Facebooks. We're addicted to this. We're addicted to doing. And so it's interesting, because this was a revelation I had one day. I was like, if I practiced as much on myself as I do on watching movies or TV or, going out to dinner or trying to go out on dates and, trying to make more money, I'd be enlightened. I would totally have ended all the pain and suffering inside of my body. And so literally what you're doing is you're actually practicing right now watching TV. You're practicing going out to dinner. You're practicing that form of a life. But if you flip that and add some balance in there and do practice on yourself, I can guarantee you'll find a more enriched life. And it's a revelation to have, because we think that we have to be out here doing, but in reality, if we are in here doing, then all of this out here falls into place, and it's a mind flip. It's a paradigm shift. So.
Absolutely, and then life becomes so effortless, and you're moving with the flow of the current energy, which is conscious co-creation, being aware that we are pure beingness, that we are pure awareness, that we are consciousness that is becoming conscious of being consciousness, and that there is no separation. Now, to understand these concepts as concepts and intellectually is no longer going to serve any of us. And the only way that we are going to have an experiential understanding, as most of our listeners are beings that have done a lot of spiritual practice and been out there exposing themselves to all of this, is through slowing down. We have to slow down and feel. We have to feel the concepts. We have to feel the wisdom and the knowledge that we have. Everybody knows everything, but do we feel it? And and the feeling body is connected to the spiritual body, and ultimately everything is one. And that's something I think that the mind creeps in there, acts like it's the spiritual body, and makes a mess, because then we have spiritual ego and even further separation, don't we, Jeremy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I'm finding that the depths of my mind or my psyche or whatever we want to find, it has these inner subconscious blocks. And I don't know the words to give it, but I just know that I consciously go down into them and I'll see them. And if I didn't take the time to go down there and look at them, they would just be there, and I would be unconscious about them. I wouldn't understand that they were there. I would think that everything was fine until they manifested into something. It surfaced, you know, like a beach ball coming up out of water, and it could form into cancer. It could form into a heart attack. It could form into something else, or stress or anxiety. And so this is how we heal ourselves. We go down inside, and we ask our soul, God, the divine, to go down there and help us heal it. Just look and become self-aware. And it really, and that's what mindfulness and meditation.
That is so important. That, you know, healing is not just what we're conscious of, and that's why people say, "But I don't mean that," or "I didn't do that," or "I didn't feel that." But it's unconscious or subconscious. And in Sekhem Reiki, which is something we learn as a modality, the energy comes down from the highest universal force energy through the pranic tube down to the center of the earth, up through the hands and out, and it's in the now moment, but it clears on conscious, subconscious, and unconscious levels. But you don't have to practice these modalities anymore. You can just intend it. You know, like Jeremy intends that, and that's how it comes to pass, that it comes up to his consciousness that this is what the behavior pattern is.
Right. And I really think that Reiki and all those things came, like Dr. Usi, they came from his intention to heal, or, you know, I don't remember the full story about when I got my Reiki master, but I know that he got the attunements probably in a state of an altered state. He was standing in both worlds, as some would want to say. And they came to him through the divine.
For 21 days on Mount Koriyama.
Yeah, I mean, he was quiet.
He was asked about how Jesus or Buddha healed, and he went and did the research and then meditated for 21 days. And in that meditation, this great energy came through, gave him the sacred symbols. And, you know, I teach Reiki masters across the globe all the streams of energy mastery. Yep. And so for people to say Reiki doesn't exist anymore, it's absurd, because Reiki is universal life force energy. And Dr. Usui just rediscovered that. It's something that's inside each and every one of us. The universe is within us, as you probably also discussed with Dr. Goswami in your show, Jeremy.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about quite a bit. It was a very great. And you actually are tied to Dr. Goswami in my life, and I just have to share a little personal story because you know a little bit about this. When you and I first met, I was supposed to interview him a week beforehand. And I don't know if you remember that we had massive technical difficulties at the radio station, and I couldn't. So a year and a half later, I'm interviewing him. And so here was what's very interesting. I'm just going to throw myself out there. I had a moment of ego, and about 30 minutes before I'm supposed to interview him, I start getting anxiety, and because I'm excited and I'm not grounded, and I have to ground myself, and I messed up his name 3 times in that interview. And when I got off the interview went great. It went awesome. I got out of there. I was like, why is it I'm so tied to him that the system went down the first time. This time I was not grounded, and I was obviously excited. I've interviewed lots of people. Why is it this one? He was my beginning when I was switching from being very spiritual and understanding who I was and all that, because I watched What the Bleep Do We Know back in 2003. And he was the one in that movie that really pulled me in. And I'd forgotten that. It was 10 years later, and I had forgotten it. And I was like, wow, no wonder why. My consciousness had pulled me in. and got me so excited about talking to him, I was literally almost pushing him away.
Yeah, we
I
really
think,
have to become conscious, don't we, of whatever's happening with
yeah,
us.
Yeah, and I want to put that out there because our thoughts are instantly manifesting. So.
Absolutely. So becoming conscious of our thoughts. So how do we do that? You know, you can use Sekhem, you can use Reiki, but the simplest way now is to intend it and ask the Ascended Masters and ask the Angelics for the help for that. I think I'm just going to read one tiny part from The Buddha Speaks, my book. Is that all right?
That's absolutely fine.
Non-judgment of beingness. The root issue behind the phenomena of judgment is one of separation and control. Within absolute reality, there is no subject or object, and therefore, who is there to judge whom? There is only oneness. Herein lies one of the most profound reasons for choosing to make absolute reality the bedrock of your beingness. In fact, it is the bedrock of your beingness. So, the absolute teachings are no longer going to be, something that we choose to go into or not. We have to understand this oneness, and from that, then we can enjoy the individual dance, because that is where reality is at. And it's just something that comes really simply when we meditate, because that void energy or the gap between thoughts that we go into in meditation is the same for each and every one of us.
Absolutely. And I'm going to read something that's not in my book that goes along with what you were saying, and I just read it last night, and I think it goes along with what you were just talking about with your book, and it says, "Again I say to you, do not judge by appearances. Look at every person, everything, every situation, every condition with just the realization that God is, and then let the spiritual reality be made visible to you by the Father within." And so when I realized that if I'm not in judgment of appearances or situations, and I look at everything as just God is, then I'm understanding the oneness in all things.
Absolutely. And so this separation of God outside of ourselves, Goddess outside of ourselves, that really has to stop, because it's not blasphemous to say that each and every one of us is a divine part of the divine spark, that each and every one of us is the microcosm of the macrocosm, that we are divine emanation, and we have forgotten. And the way to come to that is to go back into the being energy and the heart energy, because the mind will always judge and control and separate doubt and fear.
Yep. Well, I guess I'll read a part of my book here, because the first chapter I open it up to is Living in a World of Miracles, which is chapter 3. And there's a quote here at the top that says, "There are no 7 wonders of the world in the eyes of a child. There are 7 million. And I really like that, because it was the first paragraph here as I'm going into, this is actually kind of interesting because it goes along with what we're talking about. One of the coolest things I had ever experienced was to look at someone in the middle of what I was calling being a drama queen. What really floored me as I looked at them and shook my head, I realized people in a panic about money and never having enough was the same thing I used to do. I was a drama queen. So totally paralyzed in my life to spend any money, even to pay my own bills, I would hold on to money until the very last minute, then spend it on frivolous things. I further fed the idea of never having enough. One day I analyzed it. I felt my body tense up on the inside, and I went to swipe my debit card at the clothing store. I felt it was so obvious to me that I had an anxiety inside me happen right there in the moment. I took a deep breath and allowed myself to proceed. As I did, the anxiety subsided. So in that moment, when we're having anxiety with anything, including spending money on groceries, bills, and everything else, or doing the daily activities that have to do with this human illusion, I was in judgment. I was in separation of money, but more importantly, I was in separation of the divine abundance that is inherent to all of us. And so I was looking at spending money at any cost and feeling insignificant to who I was. And that is a spark or a part of the divine, as Rashmi is saying. And so I was missing it, and I was missing that opportunity to be totally in oneness with my Creator, and that's where we lose our joy.
And it's just so important for us to understand that we can only consciously co-create, which is the current mind glyph, this amazing time we're in of the speeding up of time and coming to the end of time, to 0 point energy, which is coming to neutrality, but not through suppressing and repressing our feelings, but through feeling our feelings, because healing is feeling. It's just crucial to understand that we need to reprogram or re-educate ourselves that we totally deserve everything, that there is no separation, there is no limitation, there is no lack, and that these are things that our conditioning has taught us, that the previous paradigm has controlled us through, but we can now let it go and realize that we're moving into this incredible stream, but that involves seeing a bigger picture. If we say, I am just the body, well, no, we're not. I am just Indian or American. No, we're not even just global citizens. We're interdimensional, multidimensional, cosmic beings, and with infinite probabilities and possibilities. So just knowing that, going into that void within, it does involve going into the void, going into the silence, the nothingness energy. And that is the womb of creation, which is very well explained in the Buddha Speaks, the Divine Mother Speaks, and in Jeremy's book, Peace Be Still. That void energy, from that place you go into the womb of creation. You go into the black hole of creation. And from that energy you can create whatever you wish. Because you're not separate anymore, you become all that is. And from that space you become a creator god, goddess in the making. And that's what the divine plan now is for this planet. It is for 7 billion beings to wake up to Christ consciousness, which is not a religious thing. It's the energy of unity consciousness. And maybe not all of us are going to choose this because we're in a free will zone. But this is the plan, this is the experiment, and this experiment has never been done anywhere in the manifest universes ever before. And that's why the extraterrestrials, other consciousness, higher, lower, all types of consciousness, is watching us, because this is just such an incredible time. But if we continue to be limited, if we continue to go me, my country, my house, my family, my corporation, that's not going to give us the results that it did in the previous paradigm, the Piscean paradigm. In the age of Aquarius, it's about cooperation. It's about win-win. It's about honoring ourselves, honoring each other, and honoring this incredible planet that we're on, honoring the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, which is what we are made of, and nature, our planet, is made of.
Yeah, and we're in balance with nature, like you're saying. That's,
how do you feel all of this, what I'm just sharing, relates to just everyday life in Florida, let's say, Jeremy?
Well, I'm so in the energy of it. I'm being honest with you. I just got lost in your energy.
Grounding you right now.
I'm going to tell you what.
And the audience.
Okay.
Heaven to earth now, so we're grounding it, okay? Let's ground ourselves.
There you go.
Let's take a deep breath in and a long breath out. And let's feel the energy go from the heart right to the center of the planet, grounding. We're going to chant an Om and send it down to Mother Earth. We are one. All is one. So let's just do that. Take a deep breath in, everybody. Om. And now we can take the energy up. So we take it up through the crown into the cosmos. Take a moment through your breath now to feel your bodies and to come back into being grounded awareness here now. That's simple. So Jeremy's going to tell us how it feels in Florida with this conscious co-creation information.
Well, let me just share with you, what I do here on a daily basis is I see a bunch of stuff going on in Tampa, and I just consciously have compassion for everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a man 3 miles from my office held up in a house because he had a gun, and it was a mistake, but it required 100 police officers to come to his house. And the water is contaminated right now in Florida, so I just keep on sending, or in Tampa, I just keep on sending hard energy. And Tuesday I was in Orlando, and we were at an outlet mall, and one of the security guards thought that an anti-theft device was a bomb, and that required the bomb squad, and it seemed it had to have been 100 to 200 police officers there as well. And so we were evacuated out of the mall. And so I've just been noticing, I've been put in places to just really extend hard energy because everybody's emotions are really high. And everyday life in Florida, keep in mind it's not New York because we're more laid back. We're a beach state and we're a vacation state. But just because that's happening and we seem laid back, everybody is really wired here. I mean, there's quite a bit of energy coming on. We even had meteors passing through and hitting Florida.
And on the positive side, are you seeing some just normal people beginning to wake up in a way that is unusual for you to observe?
Absolutely. We're actually seeing many shamans from around the country come into this area, and the energy is changing. And I'm watching people actually change their lives right in front of me. And realizing
normal people moving around, that are not shamans, did you feel a shift happening for some of them where they're suddenly going, I was chasing my tail all these years. I don't need to watch TV and believe everything I'm watching on television.
Absolutely.
It's time for me to make a stand.
Well, God has been blessed me with working in an office, and so I literally get to see average, normal, everyday people walking up to me saying, I never really thought of it that way. And, there's one girl in my office, she's very Christian, but she's like, I've just learned that if I just put it in God's hands, and it just hit me recently, that I don't have to stress about everything. I'm like, the more control you give up, let go and let God, the more freedom you'll actually have. So I'm actually seeing these people that were caught up in their drama change. And so it's a blessing.
That's so beautiful. The greatest thing we can do right now is work on our own energy, work on just being, work on stillness. And as Jeremy has so beautifully shared, working with this stillness energy, no matter how busy we are, no matter what we're doing. I live in the center of London, and my task right now is to just be and hold the energy of beingness and stillness right at the center of London, which in a way is the center of this planet. It's a very important part of the global village of this planet. And I'm finding many people walking around like zombies, because they're just so frightened with all the change that is happening. We're all losing control, and that's all part of the initiations that this photonic energy, this energy of light, that, the raising of consciousness energy is doing to each and every one of us. It's happening for those of us that have been on the path for many years, but also for normal people. But at the same time, people are beginning to also awaken, I'm offering my healing services at the beauty holistic place that I go to for massage and all, and I'm absolutely amazed how they're opening up to these energies now, even if they've never heard the word Reiki before. But on the other hand, it's that funny mixture of it's all happening at the same time, isn't it?
Yes. But I'm also here in Florida, at least, people are hearing about Reiki. And the massage schools actually teach Reiki 1 as the part of their curriculum, which I find very interesting. But I'm hearing people.
It's gone to hospitals. It's gone to prisons in England. Prince Charles he's done a lot actually on the positive side of things for holistic medicine, and so eventually I always joke about this, but my personal feeling is, this is maybe not a great thing to say on a radio show like this, but I feel the first to ascend will not be the New Ages, essentially. Not that there's a competition of timing. It'll just be the salt of the earth people that are, know how to be, know how to do what they do, but not be so attached to everything, and emit a frequency of total love, compassion, and sharing.
It's interesting you should say that because the people I work with the best, ones that really grasp onto the concept, are not people that have studied. They're not studied New Age, at least. They just come into it green. Because when I start teaching them, I'm not teaching them New Age stuff. I'm just teaching them energy. I'm teaching them how to energetically.
I think the greatest thing we teach is not that we teach, but that we are. It's the energy of what we emanate. Like when I meet you, or you meet me, or I meet Justin, where is the energy at? Is it peaceful? Is it calm? Is it sharing? Is it loving? Or is it just about me,
Right. Absolutely.
People say, well, okay, you're going on about your books on Facebook, for example, the critics. But, you see, these books are not to do with me. These books are universal life force energy, the decoding of Buddha's teachings, the decoding of Divine Mother Egyptian Mystery School teachings, the decoding of the Vedas in simple language for normal people to understand. And one has sold roofs over one's head and given up all worldly security, which is what I've done, and you've done, to make these teachings accessible to people. For me, it's not a money game. I'm not on a New York best-selling author's thing earning millions. And
right.
Even if I was, that would just be a byproduct of what I'm doing, which currently is, living on the laser's edge to make wisdom and the energy of the wisdom, more than just knowledge of wisdom, available
right.
to people of all walks of life.
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if we serve like that, there's no way that people won't feel our energy. And it's that energy that shifts them more than whatever we say, don't you think?
Absolutely. And the more and more we work inward and share that with other people, that is our service to self and service to others. And it really, then the byproduct exactly is, if you did hit the New York Times bestseller list, it would be as a result of your intention to help others and to reach as many people as possible. So you hit that list to help more people.
Put everything on the line, because when you're on a path, which I've been on for 20 years plus, I've put everything on the line. I've followed the energy and my inner wisdom and guidance, leaving behind wealth and countries and relationships and whatever it took to serve, And then people say, oh, well, you're so lucky making a film called I, God with the spiritual leaders of America, and, you're so lucky that you live in hotels for 4 years in a row. Well, that's just, it's not luck. It's courage. It's the heart energy. It's the energy of, there are not many people even now that are ready to do those things. They want to be spiritual, but my mortgage. I want to be spiritual, but my house, but my relationship. But you can't have a but when you move towards the divine, because you have to give the divine your all, and then the divine gives you the universe at your feet.
Absolutely. And incidentally, living in hotels all the time, because I've done it, isn't always the greatest thing.
I'm done with that, but I mean, what I'm saying is,
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
We create our reality 100%. So, I'd just like to take a moment, Jeremy, to talk about the wonderful Debbie Ford's passing away.
Yeah.
She was in our film, and I really enjoyed meeting her. She took my book with a lot of humility and love, and she was wearing this beautiful turquoise blue outfit. And out of all the seminar leaders and spiritual leaders of America that I was interviewing at that time, I really felt her heart energy emanate in a way that was very, very special and very human and normal. So I just wanted to take a second for us to, honor her amazing journey and her soul's journey as it moves forward in the other realms.
Yeah, definitely.
And that brings us to the subject of life and death. Do you have any questions on that, Jeremy?
Well, can we talk about what the Buddha or even the Ascended Masters say about life and death? I mean, I have my own experience, but
Have you had a near-death experience?
I've had a shared death experience, yeah. You've heard about it. Well, I think I've told you about it with Mom last year. When she died, I felt my body go up. And I saw her.
You haven't actually shared that, so let's just share that now.
Okay. Well, I actually
if you're up to it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna share with you that death
Literally
for
up
me.
To it, as you say, you went up.
Well, I went up, but I want to share with you guys that even though I lost my mother, who was my best friend, my Reiki master, and my spiritual sister, my mother in the human plane. So losing her, you would think, would be one of the hardest things I've ever had happen to me. It was literally, I've gotten to know her better on a more intimate level, on a spiritual level, since she's passed away. But what happened is that she passed away on January 9th of 2012, and she passed away of uterine cancer that had spread to her lungs. And 2 years prior, she had a near... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Jeremy, how old was she?
54. She was 54.
Oh, my God, very
young. So she was very young. She was very young.
My age
and,
right now, yeah.
Well, and she had, at 52, she had had a heart attack and had a near-death experience. And so they brought her back for 2 years, and for 2 years we worked on our relationship because we had been very codependent with each other. So the month before she died, we knew she was dying, and I reached out to everybody to send her healing energy, but we worked on all of her stuff in that month. She called people, she made amends, she apologized, she asked for forgiveness, she gave forgiveness, and literally the day, she was a hospice nurse, keep in mind, and literally the day that before she died, she says, Jeremy, I'm dying with no regrets. I'm dying at peace, and I know I was loved. And I said, well, Mom, that's the only thing that anybody ever looks for is those three things when they pass on. And so the next morning, I had slept holding her hand all night, and then I ended up moving to the couch in her hospice room and to go to sleep about 5 o'clock in the morning. About 7:30 in the morning, I literally hear my mother wake me up, her spirit, and say, Jeremy, if you want to say goodbye, you better do it now. And I hear the streamers in her room hitting the wall that they'd put up as decoration, her colleagues. And I look up, and they're not moving, but I'd heard them slapping and hitting the wall. So I lay back down to procrastinate a little bit, and her secretary knocks on the door. And I open up the door, and she says, I just wanted to come and say goodbye to your mom. And so she does, and then I kiss my mother goodbye. And I lay back down, and I literally feel something pulling me up, and then I lose that sensation, and I feel like I go back to sleep, and then the next thing I know, somebody is shaking me and saying, Mr. McDonald, she's passed. And so then I literally go to brush my teeth, and I'm like, Mom, you're not going to get to read my book. And I hear, Jeremy, I taught you everything in that book. I know what you wrote. It's and then we go on, and like literally that night I have a dream of actually seeing her life review and seeing everything that passed before her eyes, her past before me, before I was born, everything. And then a week later at her, the day after her memorial, some people don't know about the story, but her memorial actually had the MetLife blimp fly over it and hover over her picture for about 15 minutes. And it was really funny because the 100 people that were there, her Reiki students and everybody were there, they were all like, did Jeremy plan that? And I'm like, no, I did not plan that. But they thought I did because I worked for MetLife at the time. And so, and I started giggling, and I was like, Mom, you're just showing off. So, yeah. And then to wrap up the story really quick is that my friend came from Orlando that morning, and the blimp had followed her over. And her first grandbaby was born in Orlando, and she came to tell me, you got to come next month to meet this guy coming into town. His name is Raymond Moody. I didn't even know who Raymond Moody was at the time. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And so then I went and saw him. But the next day afterwards is when the real experience happened. I was in the shower, and I felt her energy slide into my body. And she said, Jeremy, this is what heaven feels like. And I literally lost sensation of my body. I felt like I was the ocean and the ocean waves. And what happened, I was aware of my body, but I lost sensation of all the pain, the anxiety, and everything else. And I could literally see, as I was thinking things, energy going on waves, out into the waves of the ocean. But I was really conscious and fluid with it. I wasn't trying to control it. And the monkey mind. And it was the biggest gift she could ever give me.
It was blissful.
Yes, very much so.
Wow. So this is amazing, because right now I think for all of us this death thing is coming up very big time. Would you agree? I mean,
absolutely.
I've just lost a friend of 22 years. My father, when he passed over, he wasn't as young as your mother. He was 63, but it was a big shock. And he was also my best friend. But like your mother, he told me, I talked to him about death before because I take people to the other side and all kinds of things, which I don't even know sometimes I'm doing. But I wanted to know his views on death after his heart attacks and all. And he was just really ready to go and very happy. And he said, if I live, fantastic. And if I go, I'll go fully fulfilled, because I've had... he was the editor of the Times of India newspaper, and so, he knew how much we loved him, and the world loved him. He was invited to the White House and so on. And he was a very kind man. But now what's happening is that each and every one of us, the greatest fear that we can feel, our show is entitled
2013 and beyond.
And beyond, and from fear to love. So this fear, what is the greatest fear any human can have? Whether they know this consciously or unconsciously, a lot of people say, well, no, death is not my greatest fear. Living is my fear, or something else is. But the truth is that the great sages that have meditated through the ages and the great enlightened beings have all come to that conclusion that our greatest fear is the fear of the demise of the personality self, and of the body, which is death. For some of us, like yourself, that have had these death experiences, I think that fear reduces, does it not?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of it, and honestly, I've realized that my best friend, is still here with me. She still talks to me, and her energy is extremely powerful in spirit, and even to the point where I've had
that for you a few times, that your mother's so present with you, that she's surrounding your aura in like this golden light, and that she's become like a huge guardian angel and one of your spirit guides, a big part of it. So, for our listeners, the subject of death, I think to feel fear is normal. While we're in a body, if we don't feel any fear, we'd cross the street and kill ourselves. We have this survival instinct within the body. But this whole business of death, what happens after we leave this body? What is your feeling on that, Jeremy? Because I would like to share a little bit about the esoteric wisdom of what occurs and what it's about. That it's not the end.
It isn't the end, and it's actually it's very much the beginning. And I want to share with you that I know where my mother went, which is not really even a place in some ways, because what I felt is that her soul separated itself from what it would call the illusion, or this host that we live in, and went back into its whole state with the divine. In other words, it submerged itself back into consciousness, or God. And literally it's playing in a plane that is a fraction of it. She told me one day, I was in meditation, she said, Jeremy, I am a fraction of a thought away from you. It is only you that thinks you're separate from me. And I said...
She's in the unified field of consciousness. So she's not reincarnating. She's completed, she's gone into the enlightened state.
Yes.
So that's what that's where Buddha went when he attained Buddhahood. Then you don't reincarnate, or if you choose to for specific reasons, because Buddha becomes an avatar, then they come back for very specific reasons in bodies and for certain periods of time. but they're not at all body consciousness at that point. So, I've been doing this healing system called Advanced Sound Wave Energy Therapy. It's inaudible sound. It was rediscovered by a very powerful Reiki master scientist in the Washington, D.C. area, and was given by Archangel Raphael. And of all the modalities and many streams of energy mastery that I teach and practice, this is what my Reiki masters work with the most. Within that, we have something called cellular memory release, which is a little bit like past life regression, but it's much quicker, faster, and with a lot less drama. So now when we pull out the cellular memory from the heart area to have people experience what the block is, because sometimes you have to go into the past life in order to see where the block is. Generally, I don't recommend going into past life because it takes you away from the now moment. But if there's something in the now moment that is blocked and the only way to deal with it is to go into some past life, then we go into that. And what happens is that when people go into this past life, then we go very quickly into the death in that life. So then they go to the death and how did they die, who was there, what was happening. Then we go into, okay, now you're up there in the spirit world and you're looking down at your life and what do you see? And then at that point, each and every one of these varied numbers of people all over the world that I've worked with for years and years and years come up with, they're looking down at that lifetime and saying, these were the things I went to learn. This was the dramas I created and the challenges. These were the soul members of my family that came to create these dramas and challenges with me. And now looking back, well, okay, for example, I came to learn about experiencing blindness, or I came to learn about experiencing loving my enemy, or whatever it might be. And then when they look down, they see how much of that lesson they learned and how much they didn't actually complete what they came to experience, and therefore they would like to come back again, and then how that relates to their current life. For example, their child then might have been their husband in that lifetime, and they're still, experiencing what that unfinished business or experiential lesson was. Does that make sense, Jeremy?
It does. Interesting.
So there's nothing to fear because we keep coming back until we reach that place, which it feels that Jeremy's mother's in, which is you go back to the source because you've experienced. She must have been a very, very old soul, where you've experienced all that there is to experience, and you go back to the Tao.
Yeah.
So you go back to the oneness, and you give up the separation, which is how source experiences itself.
Yeah. And I really honestly think that's why we were placed in this hospital where nobody bothered us for a month, to where she could do the last minute letting go. I don't know if that makes any sense, and that she could just let go of whatever else she needed to so that she could do whatever her soul needed to do. And that's really what she looked at. There was a day where I actually started crying, and I said, we can't be a victim here. And she says, I'm not, Jeremy. I know where I'm going. And I was it took me a while to process all that over the last year, but
she was going home, wasn't she?
She was going home, and she was like, I know, she goes, you'll understand. You of all people will understand. Just give it a little bit of time. And so what I want to share with everybody out there is that, there is a lot of people exiting, like Debbie Ford. And Debbie Ford, incidentally, I read a letter on her website from her sister. Debbie Ford knew that she had accomplished everything she needed to accomplish on this earth, and she was going home. And she was 57, so she was fairly young herself. And
she completed her mission.
She completed her mission. So while you guys are out there, and even though the physical person we can't hug, we can't have all that, but you can still talk to them, and they're still very much in our hearts, in our soul, attached to our soul. So. I know that while these people are leaving and exiting the planet, it seems like we're left alone here, but we're really not. And I can tell you with true experience that they're really not. They're very much here, watching over us, helping us, guiding us, speaking to us. Even if we can't hear them, they're placing things in front of us and really helping us understand.
So this... while we're on Earth, let's really enjoy this Earth walk, because it is just a short Earth walk. because even if and when we do come back and reincarnate, it'll never be in this format. So, either we can continue as space cadets with this mind energy, which gets one extremely ungrounded and creates stress, and stress is nothing but fear, or one can, ground oneself, which then involves one having to feel one's feelings. And most of us are totally petrified of feeling our feelings, or judge them as being good and bad. Feelings are just energy in motion, and it's really important to allow them to be, because otherwise, you have suppression and depression. You get into being zombies, moving around like robots, because one doesn't want to feel one's feelings. On the other hand, it's not about making a 365-day Broadway hit of a drama of, weeping or whatever it is. It's the balance of just allowing the energy to move and then coming back to the center, and ultimately being the detached witness of the emotions, just as one is the detached witness of the thoughts and the whole of the reality of one's life.
Right.
Do you feel this detached witnessing sometimes, Jeremy, in your life?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is being the observer.
Yeah.
So, yes.
In Sanskrit, we call it in the Vedas the sakshi, the detached witness, the observer. Yeah. So you're aware of awareness. You're watching. As it's just a tiny part. And how would you describe that to our listeners?
It's it's exactly what when I first started thinking about the observer and being a detached witness, is that literally I'm watching this movie happen in front of me, and let's say it's on a 365 degree movie screen that's happening all around you, as you suggested, and I'm not getting involved in the movie. But we have a choice. We could get involved and be caught up in the drama. But if we do that... And this is
your movie. This is not a movie you went to see in the cinema. This is your life that you're talking about.
It's your life. It's your life, and you're the director.
The projector, you're the director, you're the screen, you're all the actors, you're all of it. And so each of us, I'm doing lovely spiritual film production out there, and I know that in the years to come, if we have any form of current reality left, I would continue, because in ancient times I would love to be the great storyteller around the fires, as we all have been. And this is so important now, the singing, dancing, storytelling. As the great shamans say, well, if you're depressed, have you stopped dancing? Have you stopped singing? Have you stopped telling stories? So the way we tell our stories now is through filmmaking. But this filmmaking, that's why actors, and when they do the Stanislavski, techniques, and I've also enjoyed being an actor, you really understand that you are the detached witness. And you can change the screen, you can change the actors, you can change the attitude, you can change the way you play that role,
Yes.
Change the role.
Yep. Yeah, I picked that up, and it was funny because it was an interview that I did a while ago, and it was I think you might even know him. His name is Randy Rogers, and he's a film producer.
Okay.
So out in Hollywood, and you and I share the same publicist with him, so that's why I didn't know if you knew.
Oh, Sarah Scarlett, yeah.
Yeah. So we go.
She's a good friend of ours, isn't she?
So basically, what he comes up and he says is that try to imagine that exactly what you're saying. You're the big movie projector. You yourself, you're also the director, you're the producer, and everything else, and you get to play out the acting and the parts. He goes, but the problem what we have is we get so involved with the movie, and that we forget that we're the director, the producer, and the actor. So that
movie is a holographic reality. The scientists now know this, but I mean the metaphysicians, we, the shamans, the metaphysicians, and everybody has had previous lives as a healer, this, that, and the other. Nobody on the planet, except unless they're a totally baby soul, has not had some form of previous esoteric lifetimes. Wouldn't you agree, Jeremy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have all the knowledge and the wisdom within us. We just have to start realizing it's there, and it comes from getting quiet, still. So we're coming to our end. So is there anything else you wanted to share? Or?
Just the last thing was, that this us and them that is continuing even among some of the really powerful spiritual teachers out there, that is really quite scary, this Illuminati against us and this, that, and the other. It's okay to understand all of that. It's important to understand all of that, but that is relative reality, and any form of us and them ultimately continues to be duality, continues to be separation, and is not where source energy is at.
I think Jesus really brings it forward when he says,
doesn't it alarm you when you hear all that stuff?
It does. And I'm not going to say I haven't watched it or understand it, and you and I have even talked a little bit of a couple things, but my thing is with Jesus said it really strongly, and it rings so true to me. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. So the people that, even if there was an Illuminati, and I'm not saying there's not, have compassion for those people because they're scared.
Yes.
And for the people that think that
when they topple, forgive them, as you're saying.
And the 99%ers?
Even deeper than that, Jeremy, is the fact that in each and every one of us is the whole universe. Therefore,
Absolutely.
that other person is us.
Yes.
The Illuminati is us. Mother Teresa is us. Princess Diana. So on a higher level, it is oneness. And it is very difficult to understand that because, yes, we're not totally involved or responsible, but that darkness exists in us as well, or we wouldn't let these people rule us for so long, would we?
Absolutely.
So we have to take the responsibility within ourselves of clearing our own darkness and not pointing the finger always outside of ourselves.
The moment we stop being
enslaved. That is part of us, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the moment we stop being enslaved inside of ourselves, we'll stop being enslaved on the outside of ourselves. Because then we allow ourselves to be...
We've got to embrace the dark within ourselves and see that within ourselves, and then the outside darkness will either disappear or not affect us. That's one part. And the other part is that wherever there's a light, there's going to be shadow. The shadow is not real. The separation is not real. So don't give it too much attention. If you over-give attention to the Illuminati and all those separation scenarios, then you're going to keep perpetuating those, aren't you, through the power of your intention.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm not saying totally ignore them either. Divine balance is the key, is it not?
Absolutely.
What do you feel about that, Jeremy?
If you stay in balance and you follow it, you'll get it. You'll understand where to go, how to do, what to say, what to do, and you'll understand it. So, Rashmi, what's your website? Let's go and give that to them.
It's www.rashmikilnani.com, which is RASHMIKHILNANI. I think Jeremy will put it on the YouTube show at the bottom. And Jeremy's website, which is
JeremyMcDonald.net or www.jeremymcdonald.net. And I know you can find the Buddha Speaks on Amazon.com.
And the Divine Mother Speaks on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and Kindle. And my new book, Shiva Speaks to Conversations with Mahavatar Babaji, is coming out in March 2013 on Kindle and hopefully in the autumn as a hard copy. So, Jeremy, I'm getting some copies printed for myself, so hopefully I'll send you one as well. I think you'll really enjoy the book because Babaji is an amazing being.
Absolutely. Well, Justin's reading your the Buddha Speaks right now, so
and you can get.
He is enjoying it. And guys, Peace Be Still, you can find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Nook, and you can also get it at my website. So everybody have a blessed day. So
take care.
And bye-bye.
Namaste. Hello.